Have you ever just stopped and thought about how wild language is? Seriously, it's this system we use every single second, turning little puffs of air and scribbles on a page into these huge, complex ideas. But how? How does that even work? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and break it all down into four core pillars.
Yeah, that's the big question, right? How do we get from just a jumble of noises to a shared understanding, a story, a feeling? It honestly feels like some kind of magic, but it's not. It's a system, a beautiful, intricate system that we can actually understand. And that's exactly what we're going to do.
So here's our game plan. Think of it like we're building a house of communication. First up, morphology. That's the bricks and mortar. Then syntax, which is the blueprint that tells us how to put them together. After that, semantics, which is figuring out what our structure literally means. And finally, pragmatics, which is all about how it actually works in the real world with real people. Let's get building. Okay, let's start at the very beginning with pillar number 1, morphology. This is all about the absolute fundamentals, the tiny, powerful building blocks that make up our words. So, morphology is really the study of these things called morphemes. Now, a morpheme isn't just a syllable. It's the smallest piece of a word that actually has meaning. It means a word like, say, unbelievable isn't just one thing. It's actually a construction of 3 separate meaningful parts: un, believe, and able. And morphemes basically come in 2 flavors. You've got your free morphemes, like book or run or happy. They're perfectly good words all on their own. Then you have bound morphemes, like the prefix un or the suffix ed. They absolutely carry meaning, but they can't stand alone. They've got to be attached to something else to work. And using these little pieces, we are constantly making new words. It's amazing. We stick prefixes and suffixes on things. We mash 2 whole words together to get something like toothbrush. We even just decide a noun is now a verb, like when you email someone. And of course, there's everyone's favorite, brunch. It just goes to show how flexible and creative our language is at its most basic level. Okay, so we've got our bricks, our morphemes, and our words. But a pile of bricks doesn't make a house, right? You need a blueprint. And that brings us to our second pillar, syntax. These are the rules for how we put all those words together. You can just think of syntax as grammar. It's the architecture of a sentence. It's the reason the cat chased the mouse makes perfect sense to us, but chased mouse, the cat is just, well, it's word salad. Syntax is that invisible structure that gives our language meaning and clarity. In English, our standard blueprint is subject, verb, object, or SVO. You have the doer, the action, and then the thing the action is done to. The cat chased the mouse. This simple order is the absolute backbone of our language. You mess with it, and you either change the meaning completely or you lose it altogether. But syntax isn't totally rigid. It's got some cool tricks. We can use rules to transform sentences and shift the focus. We can say, the chef cooked the meal. Boom, focus on the chef. Or we can flip it and say, the meal was cooked by the chef. And now the meal is the star of the show. Same basic facts, just a different blueprint to create a different effect. All right, we've used our blueprint to build a grammatically perfect sentence. Awesome. But now, what does it actually mean? That's where we need pillar number 3, semantics, which is all about the literal dictionary definition of things. Now, the key phrase here is independent of context. Semantics doesn't care who's talking or what their tone of voice is. It's just about the pure, literal meaning you can get from the words themselves. It's the what before we get to the why or the how. So, on a simple level, semantics looks at word relationships. It knows that big and large are synonyms. They mean pretty much the same thing. And it knows that hot and cold are antonyms. They're opposites. Our brains do these little calculations instantly to figure out what a sentence is saying. But this is where things can get a little tricky. Let's take a sentence like this one. It's grammatically perfect, the syntax is fine, the words are all common, but it's got a hidden problem. It is a perfect example of what we call semantic ambiguity.
Yeah, exactly. So, who has the telescope? Did I use a telescope to see the man? Or did I see a man and that man was holding a telescope? Based on the literal meaning alone, both are totally possible. The semantics just can't give us the final answer. And that leads us perfectly into our final pillar.
To solve our little telescope mystery and to really understand what people mean, not just what they say, we need our fourth and final pillar, pragmatics. This is all about meaning in context. Pragmatics is basically the secret decoder ring for all human communication. It's about reading between the lines. It's about figuring out someone's intention, their goal, and what they're trying to do with their words. It's the social layer of language. I mean, think about this classic example. If I say, "Can you pass the salt?" Semantically, the literal meaning is a question about your physical ability to lift the salt shaker. But does anyone ever interpret it that way? No. Pragmatically, we all instantly understand it. It's not a question, it's a polite request. This whole idea is captured beautifully by something called speech acts. So first you have the locutionary act. That's the literal words you say, like, "It's cold in here." Then there's the illocutionary act. That's what you intend to do, your goal, which is probably to request that someone close the window. And finally, you have the perlocutionary act. That's the effect it has on the listener, like them actually getting up and closing the window. Every time we speak, we're doing all three of these at once. So there we have it, our four pillars: morphology, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. The bricks, the blueprint, the definition, and the social context. Now let's see how they all work together in a single, simple sentence. Okay, let's put it all together with, "Could you open the window?" Morphology spots the key building blocks, open and window. Syntax recognizes the structure as a question. Semantics gets the literal meaning, a question about your physical ability. But it's pragmatics that does the heavy lifting and tells us what's really going on. This is a polite request. See how they all stack on top of each other? It's a pretty incredible system. And this isn't just some abstract theory for linguists. This four-pillar framework is absolutely crucial. It's the basis for how we design language learning apps, and it is the fundamental logic that powers the AI in the chatbots and voice assistants we talk to every single day. Which leads us to a final, really fascinating question. AI is getting scary good at morphology, syntax, and even semantics. It's mastering the rules. But pragmatics, that deep, nuanced, social understanding of context, that's the final frontier. So even if an AI can master all the rules of the game, can it ever truly understand why we're playing it in the first place? Now that is something to think about.